Core values, pursuing peace. Hello and welcome to the Ignite Youth Podcast here at Wainfleet BIC Church, where we discuss life through the lens of our Anabaptist roots. My name's Julie Adams, and here's Pastor Wes
Hi.
Hillis.
I never know what to say anymore at the beginning of podcasts.
I know.
Like we've done a lot of these.
We have. I wish
so,
I could remember the number. We've got to be over 200 by now.
No.
Or close to it.
No, we're just over 100.
Just over, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, maybe I'm thinking of the other one.
But yeah, I never know what to say anymore.
I know. You don't want it to become a routine,
I
but
know.
also it's kind of familiar
Yeah.
for our listeners.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Maybe suggest us.
Should we tell a joke? Should we start with a joke sometime?
Maybe some really terrible jokes.
Yeah, I wish I knew one.
Oh, really terrible like Bible jokes.
Yes.
Okay, next
Oh,
time.
I heard one the other day and now I can't remember it. It was funny. Something about Noah and the ark, but now I can't remember.
Oh.
Okay, I'll have to think of it.
All right.
I'll get back to you. Stay tuned.
Stay
Stay tuned
tuned
for
till we
something
hear-
hilarious next week.
about Noah and his ark.
Oh, it was something. I can't remember. Okay, anyway.
But yeah, we
Moving right along.
So we are into the summer months now.
Yes.
Which is kind of crazy that it feels like summer's
Well,
flying by.
If you've stepped outside lately, it
Yeah,
certainly has
it is
been
summer.
hot. Yes.
Yeah.
And elementary school's out.
Yes. Yep.
Yesterday
Elementary
was
is
our last
done.
day.
High school students are
Long
hitting
done,
Yeah, they're
yeah.
ready. And yeah, actually, I knew a high school student that wrote their last exam yesterday.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
They had a late one, but
Yeah.
yeah. So the high school students are done. Elementary school kids are out. Youth is done for the summer. We are into our summer events.
Yep.
And with that, because we're not doing regular lessons at youth group,
Mm-hmm.
usually we try and figure out what are we going to be doing for the podcast next. We don't want to just stop.
Yeah.
We want to be able to keep it going. And
Well, and
so-
2 weeks ago, you were talking about, summer being intentional.
Mhm,
And this is
yes.
something that you can make a point to tune into every Friday
Yeah.
to hopefully learn something.
Yeah, and so we've decided. So Sierra, our summer intern, and I kind of were looking, what do we want to be able to do for our series? And we thought, what about doing like the core values of the BIC, and really diving into those, kind of the point of them, what they kind of mean, especially for us today because the BIC is an older denomination,
Yeah.
been around for quite a while, and so what actually are the significance of our core values, especially for us today. And so, as you would have heard, like pursuing peace is what we're talking about today. And that's a huge core value for us, both in the BIC, because we stem so strongly on our Anabaptist roots.
Yes.
Which in Anabaptist, it is pacifist against violence.
Yep.
With their stories of all the way back from World War I, when Canada implemented the draft, of people within the BIC actually declaring no, as they're pacifists, and were sent to jail for that.
Yeah.
Actually, I believe Pastor Renee's great-grandfather was... don't quote me on it, but she's mentioned stories, and I feel like... So ask her about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so pursuing peace is a really big part of who we are as a church and as a denomination. And when it comes to it in our world today, our world is a mess, and it feels like war is always on the brink no matter where you are in the world. And so to really be talking about pursuing peace is something I feel is really important for us to be able to do today. And I want just to start off with a certain scripture verse, and that is Hebrews 12:14, which says, "Make every effort to live in peace with everyone and to be holy. Without holiness, no one will see the Lord." And in that, it's talking us to really live for peace, really make an effort for it, because it takes effort.
So, Pastor Wes?
Yes.
Are you planning to define peace later on, or do you care to define it for us now? What is peace?
Yeah, so peace, I would say, it's the effort to live with kindness, to go against violence, to go against bitterness and grudges, and rather to be able to live out peace.
So it's more than the absence of conflict.
It's more than the absence of conflict. Yeah, it's this actual internal thing within us as well that I think we have to pursue, and that comes from the Lord. Because I think that all of us, we're human beings, and we all have violence within it. We all do. We all have a switch or a button that once someone pushes, we feel it. And
Yeah.
to actually be able to live out peace is something that's difficult, because there's times within scripture where we see, Jesus telling us about the thoughts that we have in our mind. We talk about, if you lustfully look at a woman,
Yep.
you've already committed adultery. And so how many of us who have angrily looked at people or angrily had thoughts towards people, what would the Lord actually say about those, and how those are already committed sin against the person that we have in our minds?
Yeah.
And so we have the window open here.
Yeah, so there's some extra
there's
sound
some
effects
extra noise
today.
And so it's a controlling of our mind and our thoughts and our feelings as well, because anger is one of the easiest feelings we have as human beings to default to.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
Peace is quite the opposite of anger. Yeah. And so to really live that out, it is difficult, it's hard. But there's also blessing to living out peace. In Matthew 5:9, Jesus actually says, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God." No matter what in our world, and I think this, because peacemakers, which means there is already violence, there is already things, and Jesus understands that. And what he is saying is, no matter what, there will be violence in the world. No matter what, there will be war, there will be arguments, there will be anger towards people, and there will be conflict. But Jesus is saying, though, that those who are peacemakers, those who can help stop, help reconcile, help really bring people together, he's calling them that they are blessed and they will be called the children of God. And so it's actually I think it is our duty to actually go and to be peacemakers as much as we can. And that doesn't just mean, to your neighbor or to those around the corner, but to anyone that we meet. Because if we go back to the Hebrews 12:14, live in peace with everyone, even those you disagree with, even those who have a different religious background, even those who, I can't think of other things, but those are kind of the big ones. But
yeah, a difference of opinion, different political view, different.
Absolutely. And so it's important for us to really try and live out this peace, because. And the reason this is a core value for us is it comes out of our Anabaptist roots. And so Anabaptist roots, they start back in Switzerland, back in the 1500s. And, Anabaptists were pushed and moved and pursued all around Europe until finally ending up in Pennsylvania in the United States. And then we have people who move up here to Southern Niagara and found this church. And with that, those Anabaptist roots really stem from this sense of kind of pushing the envelope a little bit on what our relationship is with God, and because they were the first to really believe in the believer's baptism, and so from that, believing in believer's baptism, being persecuted by the church for that, from the Catholic Church, to then being pushed into Ukraine and the Russian territory area, there's a sense of feeling hurt and pain in the Anabaptist movement. And the response, as if we see being punished and being pursued and being persecuted, that's the word I'm looking for, persecuted, the response isn't with violence. The response is actually with peace, and actually praying and trying to live out this this holiness of interacting with each other. And within the Anabaptist movement, there's a huge piece of it which is focused on sola scriptura, which is taking the Bible for what it is and really living out to what it says. And they found that living with peace is what is needed. And so they are trying their best to live out scripture and to live that out. And so for us today, in a world that is broken and is in pain and is fighting, it's not just we see overseas on the news the fighting that's going on, obviously, but there's fighting home internally as well, both politically or where's your stance on certain things the government says, or what skin color you there's so much fighting. And so the sense, if we still hold this core value, which we do, about pursuing peace, we need to pursue it in all areas of our life. And Psalm 34:14 I think says it really well, which is turn from evil and do good, seek peace and pursue it. No matter what, we are going to be drawn into having not great responses to people, whether it is through violence or whether it's through anger or resentment. But peace is something that we actually have to pursue, to try and chase after. God is actually calling it out of us to make peace. And I want to share a story at a time when I struggled making peace.
Yeah.
And this story is not to throw any badness on anyone. But I really struggled with peace when I was actually at my first Bible college.
Mm-hmm.
And so while I was at this Bible college, it had a different denominational background than what I had. And I knew that going in. But I didn't know how bad it could actually get. And people would make fun of me. They would make comments just, about my denominational background, being, BIC, Anabaptist. And I would constantly get comments like, oh, heresy or heretic or... But one day, my wife, Carrie, was sitting, at the cafe. She was waiting for me to be done class. And one of the students said, in a joking fashion, oh, just drown the Anabaptists. And I got livid with it when she told me. And wow. I didn't want to pursue peace in that moment. I wanted to find who did that and just lay into them. Like, are you kidding me? And Carrie really helped me because it was a few days after where I finally settled down a bit and was able to talk to the professor about it. And they helped me a lot through that. But it was a moment of deep hatred and anger that stemmed from one person in the school body to I disliked everyone in the body who represented and that denomination. And it took me some time to really come to peace with that. And I struggled with peace even after I left the school. I held a lot of grudge and resentment towards people from the school. And even now, like, there was a moment this past year's Today's Teen Conference where I ran into someone who called me a heretic at the school. And I chatted with them, and they seemed to not remember a single time of that. And I realized that the resentment, the anger, and the bitterness that I was holding on to, the violent and discontent in my heart, I was like, there's no point to this. And to actually try to pursue peace and to work with people who even have hurt me before, because ultimately, like I said in Matthew 5, like, blessed are those who are peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God. And that's what's most important, is to pursue that as much as we can. And so for us today in our lives and our world, like, everyone has different contexts of what's going on in their lives and what's happening. Yep. But to pursue peace is something that we are called to by God to actively do. And so whatever conflict you're going through, whatever messy thing that is happening, to try and pursue peace and to actually be praying for peace in our world. Yeah. Pastor Renee, actually this past Sunday, prayed for peace as part of her time of prayer. And I thought it was really fitting, because what we're seeing on the news, no matter when you turn it on, is it's war and it's conflict. And so for us as Christians in our world today, and it's us as BICers who, hold to our Anabaptist roots, hold to our core values, pursuing peace is something we have to do. It's something we have to pursue. And it comes from having this relationship with God. Because God, like, I know for a fact that we can't pursue peace on our own.
No. Yeah. Because like you said, and I've had experiences like that before, where something happens and you're like, ooh, I just want to, like, your instinct isn't like, ooh, I'm going to be peaceful. Or, and there's nothing peaceful about, and I know I've had knee-jerk reactions like that too, where your first instinct is like, oh, you want to retaliate or you want to do something because it feels...
Well, it feels right.
Yeah.
It feels like this
you can easily talk yourself into being like, this is the right thing to do. It
feels like justice.
Yes. But the Bible will also tell us that that's not our place.
Because of where we hold scripture, that is where we find our truth. That's where we find, our hope. And that's where, we have to end up putting our trust in. Yeah. And so even when it may feel not great pursuing that peace, or to let those things go, to remember it's still important, and to talk with God through it, pray with God through it. Because if we're just like, all right, I'm just gonna give peace, it's not that easy. But rather it's something to really work through with God. It's something really to balance, and something to strive for. And it's not something that we can just give easily. It takes time, it takes effort. Our heart needs to be in the right place if we really want to pursue peace, because it's something that's going to make us more frustrated, because if we just keep getting constantly back and forth with the fighting and the peace and the fighting and the peace. It's hard to not let the fighting win.
Yeah.
And so our heart needs to be in the right spot for us to truly pursue, to truly get away from the conflict and pursue the peace that God is calling us into. So that's kind of like our core value on peace a little bit, and the need to pursue it. And you can go on the BIC's website. You can look at
Canada.
Yeah.
I don't know I've never been on the USA website, but
I don't know actually. I haven't either. But
it may be there too. But BIC Canada, they're really easy to find, the core values. I looked them up the other day.
Yeah, but you can find them and you can see all the different core values and how pursuing peace. It's a really big part of who we are.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to start with that one, because I feel like that's one of the most important ones that we have.
Yeah. I believe our library has a book called The Handbook of Faith and Life.
Yes,
and that would be where you can also find the core values. And that's an interesting read. It's not
very long.
It's just a tiny little book, like a little I don't know.
I don't know how to describe it. It's that big.
It's not like a 500-page novel or something like that. But
thank goodness.
Yeah. So you can check it out at the library or right on your phone. Go to the website.
Yeah, it's true.
Read them over.
But well, thank you for joining us and.
Oh yeah, go ahead. You do it.
Oh
today.
no, I don't. Oh, okay. Thank you for joining us, and we will catch you next time. But if you have any questions or comments, you can reach out to Julie at julie@waynefleetbic.com or myself at wes@waynefleetbic.com.
Where can we find the summer schedule if any of you are interested?
If you want to find the summer schedule, you can go to the youth page on our website at waynefleetbic.info. Scroll down a little bit, and you'll be able to see all the summer events that we have coming up.
Good job, Pastor Wes. See you next week. Have a great week.
See ya.